Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the last workshop of Skills Future Festival at NUS 2025. I'm Alvin, and I'll be your MC for this session. Today's theme, Future Work, is all about how we adapt, thrive, and lead in an ever-evolving world of work. In this workshop, we'll unpack the next generation of skills we need to shape the future. Leading this exciting workshop is Mr. Poon Wang, Chief Strategy and Design AI Officer and Director of the Lee Kuan Yew Center for Innovative Cities at the Singapore University of Technology and Design, or SUTD. Thank you, Mr. Poon. And all right, Mr. Poon, I'll hand over the time to you.
Thank you very much. And I see we have about close to 70 attendees. So thank you very much for taking your precious Saturday afternoon to spend this time with me. I hope to make your time worthwhile, so feel free to ask me as many questions as you would like, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. Let me share my screen so that I can get started. Oh, just give me a sec. Let me just make sure that I share my audio as well, because I've got a video for you. Okay, there we are. Okay, I hope everyone can see. If you can't see, just shout out in the chat box and I'll respond accordingly. So today's title is Building Your Design AI Edge, as well as the SuperSkillsStack for Resilience and Innovation. Is a mouthful, but that in a nutshell summarizes what we are trying to do at SUTD, both for undergraduates as well as for adult learners and adult workers. And I'll walk you through today, and I have some materials that you can refer to as well. Why are we talking so much about AI this year? You've sort of been building up, but this year is a big moment because if you take a look at the timeline at the bottom, in December 2024, just started in January, somewhere around Chinese New Year, there was what we call the DeepSeek moment, where for the first time, for those of us who only use the free services or the free AI services, we had a taste of what frontier AI was capable of. Some of us who've been doing research, some of us who have had to look out for the future in our strategy work, we've had to work with the frontier models using paid subscriptions. We got a glimpse of that already about maybe 6 months to a year before the DeepSeek moment. But for the general public, for those who are using the free versions, you find that January was the big moment. And it was a big moment, not just because it was free, but as you can take a look from around December, January onwards, there were many, many models that hit what we call expert human level. This is a benchmark chart that certain companies, certain organizations do. They look at a set of questions, about 100 questions that can only be answered with somebody with domain knowledge, what they call expert human level. And you can see that from January onwards, more and more models, more and more AI solutions, more and more AI platforms can reach the expert human level. And so we decided in SUTD that it was important for us to be more deliberate, more intentional in the way we choose to nurture our students, in what we choose to offer as skills future courses, and again, how we choose to evolve and transform as an organization. Now, there are two ways to look at this. One way is, of course, that there'll be many worries that this will be, oh, somebody said no audio. Is that correct? Okay. There is audio? Okay, great. Okay, so maybe the gentleman will say no audio. You might want to check your settings. All right. Thank you. Okay, I'll continue then. Many look at this and say if it reaches expert human level, then surely we need to be worried, right? And that's one way to look at it, that we will be disrupted, we'll be de-skilled, and we'll be dislocated. But as all things in life, there's always two ways to look at it. Glass is half full or glass is half empty. And of course, if you are a fan of this comic, there are 4 ways to look at it. What all this means is that we can choose to do something about it. Human race, human society, Singaporeans have met challenges before and we've overcome them. Surely this time around we can do it again. And that's the optimism that we bring. That's the belief we have in ourselves and in the country and in human society. And so the question that we are interested to ask, of course, is, yes, there might be disruption, there's deskilling, but what can we do about it? The other question that we want to then answer is that if we want to do something about it, we decided that we need to nurture innovators. so that as the AI advances accelerate, you can take advantage of them. So if you can do this much now with the current AI, if the AI doubles in 6 months, you can do double as much, right? And that's the way we look at it. And we've developed a set of strategies to train our students and to train adult learners as well as the workforce. Okay, so that's one thing. At the same time, I think it's important to point out that there is a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of clickbait headlines out there. I have read them. I've been fooled by them. I'm sure you read them too. I hope you're not fooled as often as I am. But I want you to take a look at this that came up quite a bit in June this year. And the whole point was that, oh, MIT did this study that said that ChatGPT will make your brains rot, and that's the end of the human race, and so on. Well, interestingly, this article itself, it was from Time magazine. In the second last or third last paragraph, there is a interview or a quote from the author of the paper itself, who said that we know people are going to cheat, right? They're going to use an AI to summarize the paper. So what we decided to do was put an instruction in the paper so that the AI will read only certain parts of the paper. Then as an author, when I see somebody's comment, I will know whether the person bothered to read my paper or not. And then in a reply by the same author in the LinkedIn post, they actually pointed out the problem with media and headlines these days, as well as the laziness of some people using AI to do summaries instead of reading the paper and understanding the paper properly. So there in the last box you see there, we indeed never use the word like brain rot or dumb, but a lot of press is running with it, and unfortunately, so are AI summaries. So they thank this person who is a professor at the University of Pennsylvania for pointing out that there is a lot of limitations and that people should be aware of those. And so one of the things we will try to share with you, which we what we try to do in SUTD, is to offer explainers, offer evidence, offer easy to read articles that will tell you what the truth, or at least the state of the technology is. And today I show you a few of those. And today I'm talking about issue 4 that we put out, which is about the DesignAI age that's backed by our research and backed by the evidence we've collected, both here in Singapore as well as looking at what other evidence that people have collected around the world. So if you're interested, we actually have 8 of those now. We put 1 or 2 up every month. You can scan the QR code and you can then take a read of those and get a good sense of where the state of the frontiers are. And our goal of putting up short explainers is that every time there's an update, we'll probably just update the explainer so that we're constantly on the frontiers and constantly pushing the boundaries. And if you have any comments or you have any suggestions about topics that you should want us to write about, please feel free to let us know. I have my email at the end of this deck of slides. An example of research that we've done that talks about is there deskilling. And the reality is even before this current way of AI, there is deskilling. We completed a project for the National Research Foundation in 2016. One of the topics that we did look at was, in fact, deskilling of the cognitive capacities. And in 2017, as you can see the date there, we started to think through what are some of the good design principles you can have to balance both usability as well as maintaining your cognitive strength. So this is not a new problem. We don't have to over-sensationalize it. People know about the issue. We know about the issue, and we've been working with it, and we've been implementing strategies to help people and help our students. So that brings me to why we decided as a university to make a pivot, to make what we call a pivot to become the world's first design AI university. Because if we think that the world is changing, then we must do things in a new way. Yeah, some things will continue, you build on strengths, but there must be new ways of doing things. And fortunately for SUTD, we have both a short history of looking at design innovation. We also have 11 years of doing future of work research, and then 6 years of establishing, even before this wave of AI, a design and AI degree in our university. And if you recall earlier, I said this is a short history because, when you're short, you don't have so much institutional legacies. So we have history, gives us good evidence, but at the same time, we don't have such a long history that we're held back by institutional legacies. So we are now able to make the change, and the next few slides, you see the change we're making. Now, let me first talk a little bit about future work research. This is really serious work. We've worked with about 30 organizations and sectors. And here on the top, you can see the different private sector, public sector, and social organizations that we worked with. and including in some cases investment firms trying to understand the future. So we've got a good sense of what different sectors, different workforces, people from different age groups are looking at. We've done teenagers all the way to people in their 60s and 70s. Our latest report that we submit to the government is in fact on battling ageism, because we know there's a bit of an issue there in Singapore in general around the world. So very well grounded in what's going on with people's lives, with companies. And this is all of our local work. We started, as I mentioned, in 2014 on a National Research Foundation grant. And we were able to make it in 2019, 2018 with the National AI Strategy for doing very interesting work. And that's important for us, right? And then in the second part, we were able to, during the pandemic, work with people who were badly affected by the pandemic. We also put out a national job redesign guide together with government to see how we can stay human-centered as all this turbulence and conflicts were going around. And just 2025, what's going on is, if you look at the latest Skills Future report, we put out a set of tools that will help people make transitions more easily. That is not the topic on my talk today, but if you're interested, just raise the question at the end. I can do one quick slide on that. Our work is recognized internationally as well. It's been translated to Korean. The Shanghai Institute of Science for Science has picked it up. And European institutions as well as international and American institutions have picked this up. The long conclusion of all this is that the way we need to work with AI now is that AI is not just a tool anymore, but AI is a tool, as a teammate, and in some cases, we choose to not use AI at all, what we call neither. And the other part is that because the AI can create a lot of interesting generating creative images and videos now, we have what we call democratized creation. How is that different from the word democratization of technology usually you hear? Democratization technology usually means democratized use. Somebody makes the software for you to use, and then you use it, but you don't actually create it. In the space of AI, in what we teach our students and in adult education skills future courses, we teach people how to use simple ways to create their own AI assistants just using English. And for the matter, you don't even have to be Winston Churchill. You can just write broken English with a bit of Singlish and Chinese and Malay and Tamil and other languages, and you'll be able to get AI to do what you want as an assistant. So this goes beyond what we call prompt engineering, right? Prompt engineering, you prompt and you get a response. Here we're talking about designing an AI assistant, and that's what we teach everyone that comes through the university. Right. Now, so that's what we have for future research, how we combine that with our years of design innovation and our years of design AI degree. And this is where we start to get a little bit of the fun part. Every student in SUTD in the second term has to go through an introduction to design thinking and innovation. We are the only university in the world where everybody has to do it. The reason is because in the time that our students go through the university, they have to do about 20 design projects. So if you count, in 8 semesters, every semester they do 4 courses, almost 2/3 of their time is working on projects, making things that work. And so giving them a foundation, giving everyone a foundation, design thinking and innovation is important. This past term, we had our latest run of their foundational program. And the interesting thing was, of course, this past semester was also when we had our big design AI push. I want to show you in this video next. And if you have problems viewing the video, please just raise your hands, yeah? I want to show you what our students were able to achieve. Remember, they just term 2 students, okay, which means they are in their first year of university. They come from polytechnics, they come from JC, they come from international qualifications. And this is what they're able to do. It's a short 1 minute, 20-second video. Right, here you go. So in 1 minute, 20 seconds, very quickly, we show you what is possible. Let me just highlight a few points. One is that they have to use different AI. It's not just using a chatbot, right? And so it's important to be able to integrate all of them and to use it in an interesting way. Secondly, if you think that you need to be very skilled and very trained to do it, the answer is no. These are just year one students in the second term. And so it is possible, right? There's a bit of training required, but it is possible for anyone to pick them up. What is key is that because many of the AI out there are very easy to use, what you need to learn to do is to put them together, right? Almost like pulling a musical band together or choir together or orchestra together. The next thing is that you can see that it was sped up. So one statistic that we collected as part of our research into what happened to our students was that normally you might come to what they call a minimum viable product in 3 or 4 days, right? And that was considered fast. This time around, they were able to collapse it within the day to within a few hours. Why is that important? Because at the heart of learning is a feedback loop. Every time you get feedback, you learn something. So if you can collapse your prototyping time to 1 hour, or sorry, 1 day, instead of 3 days or 4 days previous, it means that if you do one cycle every day, you're learning 4 times faster. And so that's very important. Similarly, to make these things work, sometimes have to learn maybe new programming, new hardware skills. And then my joke is, the JC students. I was a JC student. Because we always just use our heads and don't use our hands as much, right? You go to university, teach you how to solder something, end up soldering your hands, right? So that's terrible. But this time round, because with the help of the AI, with help of the support of the faculty and the students, fellow students able to learn to build very quickly. And then the third thing is important. Everyone worries about hallucination and cheating, right? And you cannot cheat. When you have to make things work, you cannot cheat. If the code is generated in 5 seconds or your report is generated in 6 minutes, and then your robot doesn't work, it really doesn't matter how fast your code or report is generated. You still got to go debug it, figure it out. So you have to learn to use the AI intelligently. And the fact that you have to make things work, right, is what we call making things work and designing things the enemy of hallucinations, and all the problems that you used to hear about in the news about cheating and not learning and so on. So we don't have that problem at all in SUTD simply because you have to make things work. And it's good because it means that we learn to become more practical people. Sometimes we complain, right? You study so much, learn so much, but don't apply, right? Here, every day must apply, right? So we are very excited about that because it means we're learning and we're learning better and we're learning to be more practical as well. Okay, so here we are, back to the explainer earlier. And in this explainer, which some of you may already have downloaded because you scanned the QR code, is issue 4. I will walk through what I just explained in brief using this black diagram at the bottom so that you understand a little bit more what we mean when you learn to use AI in a different way as a teammate and not just a tool. So recap, if you use it as a tool, and you're just prompting, right? That's why I said we're more than prompting. But if you just use it to prompt, then you don't use your brain, you don't use your head. Nothing goes through your brain. And of course, you'll be cognitively de-skilled. At the same time, if you're not using their brain, then your manager or your country or whoever might as well just go hire the AI or use the robot. So everyone is worried about that. But as I mentioned earlier, after I showed the video, we're not concerned because actually for our students to make something, and in general, the way we do our adult learning as well, every workshop you have to learn to make something, whether it's an AI app or whether it's a robot, that one depends on the course. But in order to make something, you have to go through a few stages, right? And we have explained all this in the explainer that you can download, right? First, if the thing doesn't work, then you have to refine it, right? The act of refining is, in fact, cognitive skilling, cognitive strengthening. And if you can learn to ask the right questions, you learn to ask better questions, also strengthening of the cognition. And for those who do speak Mandarin, in fact, learning to ask is called 学问. And if you know a bit of Chinese history, 学问 is knowledge, but it's the pathway to wisdom based on Chinese history and classics. So learning to ask, iterating your questions, figuring things out, knowing why this prompt doesn't work or that technology doesn't work, that report is wrong, is very important. On top of that, in SUTD, because when they do the design projects, they also have to work in teams. So you cannot be a dumb teammate, right? If you say something dumb, you just say something that ChatGPT say, your teammate will go after you and say, hey, don't talk like ChatGPT lah. Make sure you have something to contribute. So act of challenging each other in a team, act of having to refine and make things work is actually very important. And we think that takes care of the disruption and de-skilling. Secondly, because we are engineers, we are architects, we must design things for people. We're training them to design things for people. So to design things for people, right, you have to use a few things, right? You must have a heart for people. And to have a heart for people, you cannot use the AI for that. Secondly, you must learn to interact with people, talk to them. Maybe you interview them, you observe what they do. Some of you who've done design thinking may have done observations. You see how people use things, then you refine and you do things better. Then of course you have to use your brains to make it better. You cannot just take what people say. You have to assess, decide, then integrate to your design. So when you do that, you are all cognitive enhancing. And then on top of that, right, what happens is that in order to make your things faster and to make your things better, you'll be using different types of AI. So it's that these little things I have in the middle. Even if some of the AI is cognitive deskilling, right? Even if some of them does make you a little bit dumber, right? It's okay because look at all the other things you're strengthening yourself. And the reality is in life, right? Not everything needs to be hard, right? Where it matters, you make it hard so that you learn. When it doesn't matter, you can use AI to automate, make it easier so you free up time to do the more important things, right? Just like, I bet with you, many of you don't cook your food from scratch anymore, right? We buy things that are pre-cooked, put in the oven, so that we save time for the things that we care about, to spend time with our families. Then once you have to do design, same thing, interact with people, test, use your head, use your brains, use your heart to make it better, right? So all these things overall make it cognitive strengthening, make you better, more skilled. Then lastly, in some cases, some students actually take them out to the market. In the case of our research, sometimes our research prototypes actually have to be commercially deployed, or sometimes our faculty become entrepreneurs. Then you find they learn new skills, right? Business skills, communicating, marketing, sales, distribution, making things work, solving problems, Murphy's Law, everything. When you do all these things, you actually learn a lot. And so when you actually have to make it work and make it commercially viable and your startup successful, you learn a lot of things and you actually add to your skill stack and make yourself much, much more skilled than before. And our view is that now being 10 times better than where you are today is already quite easy because you just take the speed at which you can prototype. For example, our students went from a few days to actually within a day for prototyping. With that, you find that you can be easily 10 times better. And then in SUTD, what we're thinking of is if 10 times can be better, then can we think about 100 times? Now, it's what I call a forcing function. Will we reach 100 times? Maybe, maybe not. But if you try to stretch yourself, right, and think hard, think big, maybe you end up imagining possibilities that you could not have done before. So that's what we're trying to do in the university, and that's part of my job to try to take this further. All right. Now, on top of all these wonderful things, there are a few other things that we need to become better at, right? And that's what I call the SuperSkillsStack. So in the middle is all the things you do with AI, with your head, your heart, your hands, to become better, become more skilled. But a few things become more important. Remember, I said, we have to put different AI together. So if somewhere in your professional or personal life, you're only using just one type of AI, try to use a few more because you must learn how to put different things together. So for example, you want to create a movie, right? Maybe ChatGPT is good for generating the script, but then videos or graphics are better for using Midjourney. And then maybe to do marketing, you have to learn some of the marketing tools that use AI. Then you have to put that together to try to achieve your goal, right? So learn to become like a conductor and a musician so that you can put together different musical instruments during musicians based on their different strengths, and then you can put it all together. And then for those of you who are online who are Singaporean and you're male, I like to use the analogy that some of you have gone through NS. Sometimes NS, you heard this thing called the combined arms strategy, right? Where you have to put different weapon systems together to try to achieve the mission. It's the same idea, right? And I think that's become quite important because so many AI solutions are so powerful now that it can help you do a lot more. Secondly, you need to put all these three things together on the left. Is what I call agency. Agency is really what we call taking the initiative, but it's a little bit more than that. Taking initiative not just to get started, but taking the initiative to influence those around you, convince them, and to try to shape the outcome. Right? So that as you make things better, you're talking to people, you take the lead to solve problems. And that's important because once you're able to do that, you'll be able to use AI to help you. Domain knowledge is important. We have found in our research that, in fact, the people who know how to use the AI best, right? The technical part itself, the younger people are better because they're like what we call digital natives. But when it comes to knowing how to apply it well, it's actually the older workers and the older members of society. That's because they have the domain knowledge. You say, oh, I know how to use this so that it will fit my needs. So for those who are a little bit more experienced, don't be afraid of the digital stuff, right? It's quite easy to learn, and I'll show you some examples that I did myself later. I'm not a spring chicken myself, right? And where your domain knowledge is actually very, very valuable. So don't waste your domain knowledge. And lastly is to have imagination. Now that you can make anything in this world, do you know what to make, right? There's a funny comic where the starting caption, the first panel that says, you can make anything in this world now with AI. Then the second panel is already nighttime, the person is still thinking about what to make because they've never been given the option before. So start to exercise your imagination, think about what you can do. And then lastly is what I call taste, because if the AI can do things for you quickly, you must be able to know whether it's of good quality, right? And this is the same as taste, the literal form, like good food, but taste also for things like art, visuals, a good idea. And that's something we need to train to build up, because now we can have good quality ideas, but you must know what good quality means. Let me give you a few examples. In our explainer, we've got two examples, one from external, just to show that it is applicable elsewhere. And another one is internal, which is the video I showed you, but I'll elaborate a little bit more. So about a year ago, a very famous mathematician, one of the brightest mathematicians, some of you will know him, Terence Tao, he decided to launch an experiment to ask, okay, what can AI help with in mathematics? And so he came up with this little interesting project where he said, we're going to look at different rules or combining different mathematical elements, and we're going to see whether we can solve all of them, right? And that's what you see on the left-hand side. And by the time he went through all the combinations of 22 million, so how do you solve 22 million combinations quickly? So to show you what this SuperSkillsStack looked like, first was he was able to assemble what I call an ensemble of humans and AI. There were 50 participants. Some are professional mathematicians, some are amateurs, some use AI, some use hand proofs. Regardless, doesn't matter, right? They all had expertise and they all learned to solve the problems together, right? And that's important because in our modern work, most of you work in organizations, do complex things, do interesting things. Sometimes even boring things are complex, right? So nonetheless, you do a lot of complex things. You find you have to work with many people and many machines. So that's actually how reality of working life is. So having the agency to know how to assemble them is important. Then secondly, to have the agency to say, I want to start the project. I will work with different people. I know how to shape it so they can solve the problems together. I have the domain knowledge to shape it. And I have the imagination to know how to structure the problem, structure the equation so that they can then solve the problem together. It was not just Terence Tao who had it, but the 50 participants as well. And then lastly, they had taste, because to test 22 million mathematical combinations together, you must know what is good and what is right, what is wrong. And they were able to judge which should be pursued further. And they constantly experimented, iterated, and discovered. And going back to what I said, where the iteration is skill strengthening, as a result of this, all of them all learn something new, not just individually, but collectively. Okay. Right, so that's what you have. It is the super skill stack in action. And we call it a stack because you sort of need each of this. You cannot take away one and believe that it will still be okay. So for example, if he didn't have the agency to start in the first place, then obviously nothing would have happened. And if the 50 mathematicians did not step forward, nothing would have happened. If they did not have taste, they wouldn't know which ones to pursue. And if they didn't know what to pursue, they then cannot solve the 22 million problems together. So all these things must come together. And the implication for all of us is, how can we begin to build each of this bit by bit, day after day, so that we become good at using AI, working with humans, as well as having the imagination and domain knowledge to do so. Okay. Now, let's look at our students' case. I showed the video earlier. Now, this is sort of the details. They were able to assemble an ensemble of humans and AI because first they work as a team. And then you can see that they use different AI to solve different problems, whether it's to generate cross-domain visuals, whether it's to do MVP testing, whether it's to test sentiment analysis, whether it's to prototype, or whether it's to learn new knowledge to do things that they had not learned before, right? So it was taken in combination as a system. Then, did they have agency and imagination and domain knowledge? Yes. So a few of the teams were very smart. If you've not done this before, you should, right? If you are afraid that your output from, say, your ChatGPT may be wrong, right? Other than wondering whether it's wrong and then guessing, you can just run it through another AI, maybe your Gemini or maybe your Perplexity, or some other AI that you like, right? Just run it through each other, right? Like a battle royale where the input of one becomes the output for another. And then you just ask yourself and use it to challenge each other. So they did that. They were able to use it. In this case, they used Gemini, GPT, ChatGPT, and DeepSeek. And as a result, they got to better outcomes and they had more robust. And looking at the outputs and then being part of the debate with the AI also helped them to strengthen their skills. And then, of course, they were able to assemble different capabilities together, right? We had a few teams where they sort of worked out what each of them was good at, where they were weak in, and how the AI can help. So that was all about adjacency, domain knowledge, and imagination. Then lastly, they had taste because through the course of it all, they were able to spot hallucinations. And they also had a good sense that when it comes to learning what people need, you don't just ask the AI for it, but you choose to do proper user interviews, and we teach our students and we teach our learners how to do that. Okay, so quite important, these three parts of what we call the super skill stack. Okay, so there you have the super skill stack in a nutshell. Let me show you a few things. I didn't start out knowing all these things. I also had to learn myself. So I want to show you a few experiments I can do, which I believe you can do too, right? If you don't know, just email me after that. I can even give you the instructions, okay? Right, I just show you some fun stuff, yeah? Okay, so we believe it's possible, not just because I've done it, but because we have tested it not just in our year one students in the term 2, we have tested it in an undergraduate class in humanities, arts, and social science, which is quite interesting because usually you do these social science classes, you don't really do anything about building with technology. But we had one very adventurous sociology professor who got the students to say, now, I don't just want you to write a paper for me. I want you to take the ideas, the concepts I've taught you, and now imagine you have to build a service or a solution to serve society. And when they actually built the solution and service using very simple AI, the instructor, the professor could actually see whether they understood the concepts well. And it turns out, and she was very pleased, she said, it turns out that making the prototypes helped them learn more, but it also showed to her that actually the students understood the concepts deeper than she had originally imagined. So it was a very good outcome, right? We can use it in these classes too. Then I do teach a smart cities class for the master's students as well, and we're able to build an interesting solution to teach people how to do better interviews for research. And now what we have is that the National Library Board, the National Archives, the Oral History Center will be working with us to use the AI that those students built to train interviewers. And what's nice about the team that built this, about 5, 6 of them, were their international students and Singapore students working closely together. But just as importantly, most of them did not have a coding background. It was just through the course that we taught them, be confident, use it well, same things I'm teaching you and sharing with you now, right? And they were able to build it, and now it's being used to serve society, which is very good news, all right? And then, of course, we've done other research that backs up everything that I've said today. So those are just 3 projects. One is about trust and creativity using AI. And then one is a project with the Public Service Division, the Singapore government, about AI impact on policy officers. And we're constantly reviewing the academic literature to see where AIs do well, where humans do well, and where the combination of humans and AI as a team may work well together. Okay. For fun, just to let you know, I want to make sure that you understand that anybody can do this. Everyone can do this. Explainer 7 is actually my research with the Pilates instructor, how the Pilates instructor use AI and where she choose not to use AI. And this is really nice also because the instructor is actually a fine arts graduate. And so it was good to get her views as a fine arts graduate as well. Okay, now fun stuff. I promise that I'll show you easy things that you can do. Most of you use ChatGPT. Most of you may have done a Studio Ghibli sort of photo. I took this on the way to the airport. I thought it looked really nice because of the colors, but I didn't want to do Studio Ghibli, right? So what I did was I used ChatGPT, the whole idea of a super skill stack. I'm using different things. I have agency, I have imagination. I didn't just follow Studio Ghibli. I said, do it Wes Anderson style. And there you go. Very nice Wes Anderson style. And then I went to read about how other people learn to use ChatGPT for image generation, and I found out that you can actually ask ChatGPT to give you the same person, the same age range, in the same style, but a close-up shot, right? And so I say low angle view, close-up shot, and that's what you have here. So they were able to do it, which is really nice, right? Because now you can imagine you can start making nice movies and pictures. And then I said, give me an overhead shot, and that's what they gave me. And then what I did was I put it into CapCut. Some of you who do TikTok will know CapCut. I just learned it because I don't do TikTok, but I learned it because I want to teach myself. So using another solution, then you can create something like that with sound effects. Okay. And then I got more adventurous. I started to look around me and say, what else can I turn into interesting pictures? I saw this nice nighttime shot of HDB flats with the nice skies. So I thought it reminds me of Starry, Starry Night. So I turned it into a Starry, Starry Night Vincent van Gogh picture. Then after I combined everything, right? So this was done again using ChatGPT. Then I used what we call runway to turn into a video. And this is the combined effect of what you can do. Okay, so if I can do it, you can do it, because my joke to everybody is that in secondary school, secondary two, my art teacher told me that he's giving me a 50 over 100 only so that I can pass, because if I fail, then I have to be retained, right? So if I can do it, so can you. Okay. Right, so end off with another fun example. This was an earlier experiment where I was just learning. Some of you will know which movie this is from. So I didn't even do anything imaginative. I just took scenes from a movie, and I just asked them to convert into a cartoon style, in this case, a Studio Ghibli style. And then I just asked them to do this, right? And so this is me being even less imaginative, but that's how we all start. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, let's try again. Yeah, okay. Now, if you are worried about, let me talk a little bit. Some of you may be worried that what about the creative sector? I know some people are affected, but to be honest, if you take a look at what I did here, right, no one's going to pay me commercial rates to do this. Okay, right? So the reality is we noticed that the people who use the AI best in creative sector are in fact those who are really very good at being creatives. So it's actually skills enhancing and skills empowering. Then we're going to talk about those who are not so good. What do we do with them, right? But that's a conversation we can have in Q&A. Yeah. Okay, so just to end off, because this is the Skills Future Festival, if you want to learn some of the stuff that we do in SUTD, they are both long and short courses. I see there are quite a few online, so I don't know your age groups, but I assume there's a range. So I put down here a range of things from undergraduate programs to masters to PhD programs. There are also short courses at Skills Future. And I do teach some of them too, right? Like some of the executive programs, I teach them. And these are the same things that I will share with them, but in greater detail with a lot more hands-on. By the end, the whole goal is that whether it's a one-day workshop or a two-day workshop or a one-semester course, is to give you the confidence that it's not such a complicated thing to do. There are ways to work around it. There are ways to learn, and there are ways to actually do interesting things that will enhance your life, both personally and professionally. Okay. So with that, I end my presentation, and I thought I had my email here, but maybe let me just check. Maybe it's here. Okay, there's Q&A function. I know it's here. It's here. Is it here? Okay. I don't know what happened to my email, but I'll type in my email and then I'll share my screen again. Okay. But in the meantime, feel free to ask me questions, and I think the moderator and all would be also giving me some questions, right? Okay. Yeah. So thank you very much. Let me put my email, then I'll put my slide back up. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Poon, for the really thought-provoking session. For now, we'll have Q&A. So if any of you guys have any questions, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of the Zoom interface. All right, Mr. Poon, I think we have a question.
Yes.
From
What is the
anonymous
question?
attendee.
Anonymous attendee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, what is it? Let me just take a read. Is that I am interested in learning what type of social impact. Yeah. Okay. So it's quite simple. The students were given free play to decide what to build. So for example, one of them built something on what we call, how do you ensure that you use an AI for inclusive hiring, right? And then the students had to design it. And then the students immediately learned that inclusive hiring is a nice word, but you cannot be hiring everybody because you only so many positions in your company, right? So then they realized how do I design it so that I can be inclusive, but at the same time recognize their constraints. So these are examples of what the students have to build as part of the use of the AI tools. Yeah, other questions? Yeah, let me share my screen again. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, I'll share my email later because I think the MC is leaving this year, so you know how to ask questions. Other questions? Anyone?
Yes, Mr. Poon, we have a couple more questions coming in.
Yeah,
They're
where do I
coming in.
see that actually?
Oh,
Oh, Q&A. Oh, I'm
yes,
so
Q&A
sorry.
function.
I was looking at the chat box. Sorry. Okay, okay, great. I'll answer all of them. Answered one. Okay, great. Okay, there are two questions. How to use design AI skills for public policy design evaluation. So, in our project, what we did was we did one as a prototype to show what is possible. Those of you who are in public policy and some of you outside public policy will know this thing called red teaming. The idea is that if I have a policy, I have a message, or I have an initiative or strategy. If I have a red team, that means an opposing team going against it. Can I use it to stress test my policy? So what we did was we actually quickly prototyped in 15 minutes what we call a custom GPT, no code at all, using a paid chat GPT function where you can build an AI assistant. And what we did was we said for every policy we give you, right? In this case, it was about hawker policy. For every hawker policy we give you, right? What you will do is you will give me the pros and cons. But what was different this time around was we looked at which are the key organizations as well as the key voices in this space who have been very vocal. And what we did was we came up with a few documents that we then put into the AI assistant to say that every time you critique and poke holes at my hawker policy, you look at what these people have said in the past and make a best guess, right? What they might say about this policy. And once it does that, it might say, okay, for this policy, organization ABC might say the following things. They might like it for this reason, and they might not like it for that reason. Or this influencer voice will say this, and he may or may not say this. Then once you have that, the team can collectively look at this and say, okay, let's assess, back to the whole idea of the super skill stack, having taste, having domain knowledge. Let's assess which of these inputs from the AI personas are important and useful for us to consider. Then we improve the policy as a result, right? So that's how we use design AI skills for policy design, where you put together different AI, and we didn't just do it for one AI agent, we use it for different AI solutions as well. And so once you do that, you get a very robust, almost like doing a consultation. But now when you actually do the consultation in public, you actually are more robust already because you've already been through one round internally with the AI. So once you do that, you can actually speed up your prototyping of the policy solutions and also actually build domain knowledge in the younger officers without the domain knowledge, because then they can see. They don't have to wait for a consultation to learn. They can learn faster, iterate faster before they go for the consultation. Okay, so I hope that answers your questions. If you want more examples, then type in the question again so that I can give you more examples. Otherwise, because I see a lot of questions, I do want to get through all of them so that everyone gets a chance to hear a bit of my answer. Yeah, there is a 2-day one. And okay, so we have a lot. There are some basic ones. There are some for design thinking alone. Maybe the easiest thing is later when I put up my email, you draw me a note what you're looking for, right? Then I can then direct you specifically to the right one, because otherwise there's a whole slew of courses. I could go through a list of 10 courses, then it'd be very boring for everyone. So maybe drop me an email after that, and then we can identify the right one for you so it can be more targeted. Yeah. Can I attend skill? I think cannot, right? Because I think Skills Future credits is only for 25 and above or something. Is it right? Does the MC remember? Yeah. I think so. So as long as you have if the answer question here is can I use Skills Future credits before joining undergrad program, then I think as long as you have them, the answer is yes, right? But I think undergraduates and all don't really have them. But there are other schemes, such as I think the unions have this training credit and training allowance that can be used as well, right? So I think boils down to whether you're eligible for Skills Future credits. Okay. What skills will be the IT skills besides? Yeah. Okay. You know what's interesting about this question? Everybody says no need to learn to code anymore because you can use language and English and so on. The answer is yes, you don't need to be a coder to code anymore, but you actually still need coding skills. In almost every project we've done and in every external project that we are monitoring, that means what other people are doing, including what the startups are doing overseas, they'll tell you that it sped up my coding time But that last 10, 20%, right? When I'm refining for the consumer, the customer, my client, right? That's the part where you actually need to have very good coding knowledge, because if you don't have it, you don't know how to solve the problems that your client wants. Um, my president in university calls it the last mile. My chairman also calls it the last mile. You can think of it that way. The last bit, right? I call it the sting in the tail, right? The last bit is the secret sauce. I learned the word sting in the tail is that, you do F1, between the first and the second or third winners, right? Actually, the duration, the time is very, very short, right? There's something that the first prize winner or the first place winner has that else does not have. It's called a sting in the tail. So you still must have good coding skills, right? Because you need to do that. One interesting example is there's a startup in the US that's incubated by Y Combinator, which was the incubator that did Airbnb. And the founder actually said that we created a solution where we can interview a lot of people very quickly. So instead of doing only 10 interviews in a day, we may end up doing 1,000 interviews in a day. So we're done with interviews in a week, right? And we can do more interviews. But then when the client spoke to them, they said, actually, the reason we're hiring you is not because you can do fast interviews. They said, we also know how to do that, right? Just tune the AI. But what we want is your domain knowledge to be able to interpret the interviews for us and to actually set up the interview for us, all of which require coding skills, plus domain knowledge, plus imagination, plus agency, plus learning how people operate, social science, understanding people, empathy, and so on. And the client told actually that's what we're paying you for, and that's what you're valuable for. So the IT skills are still, in a sense, largely the same, but now you must add the AI skills, and you must learn to use the tool in concert. If you have the conventional IT skills and you do everything without AI, you're obviously going to be slower, right? And not as effective and efficient. But you have the AI skills, you get faster, you use your IT skills that you have for that last mile that is the most value to create value for yourself. Okay, so it's a bit different from what you normally read in the mainstream, because the mainstream and the newspapers like to give you simple messages. Otherwise, you don't sell newspapers, right? Or for social media, they don't get click-throughs, right? But from our research and all the work that we've done and our own projects internally, that's been the answer, right? We have speed up, but a lot of work is still talking to people, fine-tuning, making it work. Okay, I hope that helps. Okay, Vincent asked, how do we evaluate human-centeredness? Very simple. Who are you designing it for? Did the person's life improve because of that? And then when you say improve in what way, that's the reason why you must talk to them with your heart, your hand, and your mind, right? You must understand that getting a job, for example, for a vulnerable segment means very different from a job, but somebody who's already has a job and is trying to look for a better pay, right? So an example is, if you already have a job and you're looking for better pay, your key KPI is better pay, correct? Or better promotion. For vulnerable workers who don't have a job and who have been beaten down by life because they have been sick, or they've been retrenched many times, we actually have three different metrics for them, right? It's called time to be open, right? That I can do something better tomorrow than today, because you need them to be optimistic and not pessimistic. Then time to be confident that whatever I have is good enough, right? And the last one is time to money, right? So in the work with the vulnerable segments, we use a slightly different metrics. So human centeredness depends on the human that you're working with, and your job is to uncover what is human centeredness for them. That's the job of a designer. Okay, thank you. What are my most frequently used AI tools? I use ChatGPT, I use Gemini, I do use DeepSeek as well. For coding, I use a bit of Claude, right? And ChatGPT also, because it's quite good. I use a bit of Replete, because Replete is a very good what we call vibe coding. It means no code, low code platform to prototype certain things. And then for image generation and videos, there's ChatGPT. Grok is not bad too. Actually, the image is not bad. Actually, you can replace your clothes on your body and you do quite a good job. I do use Midjourney. And then I also have, and then of course, there's the free stuff on Meta and so on. Then for videos, I've experimented with Runway, with Kling, as well as Midjourney. Some I pay, some I don't. The nice thing is you can use the free version to test. And then after that, the ones that you think really work for you, then you just invest a little bit of money to pay for them, right? But I'm practicing what I preach, that in order to achieve what we want to achieve, we got to put things together, right? And then to put all the videos together, I just use CapCut because it's the simplest. Yeah, very easy to do. Easy to add video, easy to add audio, easy to add text, and so on. Okay, and Copilot, of course, there was no choice, right? Everybody use Microsoft Word, you have to use Copilot, no choice. Okay. Okay, healthcare and active aging. There are okay. So there are a few questions. There are a few questions embedded in this question. So let me try to unpack this a little bit. Healthcare and active aging. There are two parts to that. One is the urban side, which is the physical building and physical environment. And we've got colleagues who think about how to make sure that the place is number one, how people can age in place. Secondly, in the community where you age in place, whether it is age friendly, it's got guardrails and so on. And thirdly, how to make sure you stay integrated to the community, right? And I think that's important. On the healthcare bit, where there are questions like how to ensure that you stay healthy. So as together with the government's push to make sure that we stay healthy in the community, we're thinking through how to think about healthcare or health in general in a more systematic way. Staying healthy as you age is not just about eating better, it's also exercising, keeping your mind active, staying plugged in the community, learning new things, having a job. So it's not so straightforward like, growing up when you're younger, where you can do things step by step. When you're older, you've got other responsibilities. A lot of things happen all at once. And it's very hard for individuals to think about all this as a system. So one of our latest explorations is to see whether we can use AI to help, because AI can help to integrate a lot of things together, right? And then the other thing that's interesting is about, well, it's implied in the question, but not explicitly asked, but I think the person asking is also asking about this is, can we equip older people with AI skills? And the answer is yes. So I have two favorite examples there. Very short, I would just say one of them built an AI assistant so that every day after she take her blood pulse rate as well as her blood pressure, she puts it in, and then it will then pull from HPB website whether you're on the right range. And based on the right range or not, it will ask you whether you want some suggestions for what you can cook for the rest of the day. And then if you say yes, it will pull from the neighborhood NTUC to say these are things you can buy from NTUC at this roughly the price, right? So it's a very useful assistant to stay healthy. Another one, we had a couple for where the wife actually had a stroke. And by teaching them how to use the AI well, in this case, ChatGPT, but not just prompt engineering, but knowing how to use the calculations as well as the image recognition capabilities, they were able to do their job. And in a very nice SMS that they sent to us, they said that the boss asked the person when the person returned to work, how come you can learn the job in 1 month, whereas the previous person who left took 6 months to learn it, and now you're doing the job better than them, right? So it is possible. They're in their 60s, and we can do a lot. It's how we do the pedagogy and how we teach, and a lot of the way we teach things is about making people feel confident. Because once you feel confident, you can do a lot. Okay. Okay, ask me. Okay, next question is, what did I use? Oh, it was ChatGPT. So if you're talking about the both, right? ChatGPT, my motorcycle as well as the goalkeeper, it was ChatGPT. Then I used Runway for the animation, ChatGPT for the different variations of the same photo, then Runway for the animation, and then I use CapCut to put it all together and put some effects and to do transitions. So it's actually very straightforward. Yeah. Okay. Next question is coding. Yes, it does. We in fact had Replete come by do a workshop. The students found it useful. What we are doing now is we're assessing between this, right, and using, say, Claude or Perplexity or ChatGPT, which of these platforms will work well. Because, there's a big competition now, right? They're all competing to be the top platform. And so we are doing our due diligence also to see which of these are, in fact, best for our students. It's also possible, right? And we've discussed this internally and with the students and amongst the leadership, that it may be possible that you have to allow people to choose their platforms, because each of these may appeal to a different style that the student learns or the student works. If that's the case, then how do we create a policy? It's going to be messy, right? How do you create a policy where it's more decentralized and we don't really have an answer yet, but we're thinking through it? Yeah. Okay. Next question. No, it cannot be delivered virtually at the moment, unfortunately, because a lot of it hands-on. And once it's hands-on, it's very important for us when you run the problems for us to see what you're doing, right? And it's a bit harder in a virtual setting. Yeah. Okay, we tried, it didn't work, so we're not confident of doing a good experience. And if the goal is to give confidence, right, then we would like to do it in person. But if you have any ideas how to do it virtually, well, I'd be happy to discuss. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Poon, sorry to
Yeah,
interject. We are down to our
yeah.
last 5 minutes. You mentioned you
Okay.
wanted to share your email address
Yes,
just
yes,
now.
yes. Share, yeah.
All
Share
right.
my email
Okay, I
address.
will stop
Yeah,
share for a while and
yeah,
feel free to
yeah,
share it.
yeah. I'll share my email address. Drop me a note, right? And if somehow I don't get your question in the last 5 minutes, can you just take your question and email it to me? Yeah. Okay. Oh, hold on. I thought I shared already. Share already, right? Yeah. Okay. Let's try again. Okay, can see, right? Okay, yeah, you see my email there in a slight yellowish, whitish sort of tone. Is the design AI only applicable design project to design uh no, it's not because okay. Maybe I should make a mention that the way we think about design in SUTD is more generic. Design to us is yes, there's a conventional designing a project, put things together, but it's also the bit about putting different things together to achieve an outcome, right? And it's called design because it's not natural, right? For you to assemble different things in a certain order so they all work together, human motivation, etc. You sort of need to have some sensibility how to put it together. So we mean design in that sense. So in research, we've been using it a lot, right? So one of the reasons that the interview companion that our students built actually started as a research project. Why? Because we started a research project and say, how can we help our students learn better? Then after we created a prototype for the students to teach them how to do research interviews. Then in my class, we asked them to create it for themselves. Now that they have the experience and they can build one better for themselves. So it's applicable to everything. The design AI skill stack. Yeah. Yeah. Anonymous attendee range of, yes, unfortunately, yes, that is the case. So fortunately, at the same time, there are some free tools. So experiment with them, use the free credits they give you so that you get a sense, right? Which one also for you before you invest. The other thing is if you're in a company or you have a group of friends, you can always just see whether you can sort of use one of you can get it first, try it out with each other, then you make a better decision, right? So unfortunately, that's the situation we have now. So then naturally, the question is there going to be some inequality issues, and I think we are thinking about that too, right? And we worry about that in our for our students too, so that how do we make sure that if a student is not doesn't have as much money that they're not left out of the subscriptions, right? So far we've worked with a policy where they can write in and ask us as long as they explain why they need it, then we will fund it for the project, right? But we're far away from having a complete solution. Okay, rate teaming policy, what would be so yeah, so that's where the AI. So there are some constraints if you use a generic model, but if you do two things, one is you feed it the documents you want it to read from. The technical word for this is retrieval augmented generation. But in the ChatGPT AI assistants, or what they call custom GPT, there's a place you can upload documents, your own documents, so you can ensure that it's complete, right? So that takes care of the base reference, right? Then secondly is the way you prompt or the way you set the instructions. When you set it to say, please search the entire World Wide Web to do it, or please take on the persona of somebody who knows everything in the world, you can overcome some of those constraints. The one thing you cannot overcome is the deep domain knowledge that you have working on this issue day in and day out, for which not codified. So there are a lot of things that I know that we do that cannot be codified because number one, you ask me to codify, I cannot codify because I don't even know why I'm able to do something because I'm so used to doing it, right? But the other one is just judgment, right? How do you smell the problem a mile away, right? I sneeze small one thing, I say, okay, the student's going to be in trouble, right? From day one, right? How do you know? Experience. AI can do it, maybe cannot, but those are things that where is the last mile is where your domain experience becomes important. But otherwise, everything else is easily available, easily searchable, easily combable. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we are talking to the Ministry of Education for the next question. We are talking to the Ministry of Education. They are talking to us. And we have been doing some workshops for teachers as well as our principals. In fact, last week, my president gave a talk at a Global Education Leaders Conference, which where a lot of principals attended. So we are trying our best. We see our job as a publicly funded university, not just to build and nurture our citizens, but also to be a catalyst in the Singapore economy and society. So I don't have a specific answer for you yet, but yes, we're having conversations. But if you have ideas, please drop me an email and then we can see whether we can do something together. Okay? Oh, consistency, very easy now. You just tell them in Mid-Journey, I think there's a way called SREF, SREF, right? And in ChatGPT, you just say, use the same style, or the same format, or the same feel, or same ambiance, or the same feel, or the same vibes, and give me the character again and regenerate it from a different view. So usually you can do quite a good job on that. And then the thing is, if it doesn't give you exactly what you need, then you tell it what is wrong, and then it will correct it for you. Okay, so the character consistency has improved for ChatGPT has improved since the Studio Ghibli thing came out. Okay, so there's a lot you can do now. Yeah. Okay, right. I'm told that I have I'm done. No, I cannot take any more questions.
Yeah, so sorry about that. But Mr. Poon has shared his email in the
Yes, yes.
he shared the email. So if anybody wants, please feel free to shoot me a question. So once again, thank you, Mr. Poon, for sharing your powerful insights into how we can embrace the future with courage and creativity and AI. Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Poon.
see you. Thank you. Bye.